Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to TheSoundTV. Today, I got a review for you on the KZ SAGA by KZ Audio. But just to be clear, KZ Audio did send these IEMs for review. But as always, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to talk to you about my personal experiences and thoughts about the IEM. Now, the KZ SAGA bass enhanced version. Let's be clear about that. The KZ SAGA does have two versions. We've got the KZ SAGA balanced and the KZ SAGA bass enhanced. So this is that version, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. All right. I've had the opportunity to test IEMs at different price points, and every so often you get an IEM at a price point that just does everything right without breaking the bank. And I say that because just a few years ago, IEMs for like a good quality IEM were very expensive. And then you got companies like KZ Audio and others who are stepping into the budget friendly space with IEMs that are bringing a lot with fraction of the cost. So I definitely want to praise KZ Audio for that here, because I think the KZ SAGA is definitely a really good budget IEM. At $22 US, ladies and gentlemen, you are getting a product that I think you'll be very satisfied with and will last you a very long time. First impressions, the KZ SAGA bass enhanced version is targeted at those bass lovers out there, right? I know a lot of you exist, and I think this IEM is right there for you. But I think the good thing about it is that you get all that punch without losing everything else. All right, so these deliver on that concept, not only for gaming but music as well. The first thing that I did when I put these IEMs in my ears was I played the brand new season of the finals, season 8, and I jumped into the practice range, TDM, and immediately felt the thump. I was actually pretty excited. I was like, dang, I haven't really felt or listened to an IEM that had this much of a, thump in a while. So for me, it was kind of refreshing and something new. I also listened to Givion's new album, Beloved, which I definitely recommend you go listen to. And to be honest, again, historically, I haven't been like the biggest fan of bassy IEMs for gaming or listening to music, just because typically the implementation is just not executed in a way that I personally like. And a lot of times all that bass and everything else just kind of suffers. So I think here what KZ Audio has done with the KZ SAGA bass enhanced version is delivered really nicely. Now the sound signature can be described as a mild V shape, which essentially just means you have an emphasis on bass. And I'm going to tell you, the bass on these IEMs is very present. You have a recessed mids and then a forward treble. So that's kind of the sound signature that you get with these. The bass feels good. It feels punchy, thumpy. You get a sense of grounding where the support in this region is inviting. It feels filling. In genres like R&B, classical, hip hop, reggaeton, rock, just to name a few, it feels like the bass complements each genre respectfully. Of course, there will always be some sort of deviation, right? Just depending on the genre, mix, the volume, your setup, your source. But at this price point, I really think KZ Audio has done a really good job, and I think they've executed the bass really well. Now the mids are recessed, but there's something kind of unique that happens with these IEMs when it comes to the mids. And again, kind of when I was talking about the bass, there's like this slight deviation just depending on the scenario, right? Volume, I think, kind of plays into that. The application, the mids just feel like they're slightly just a little bit forward, just depending on what it is that you're listening to. But yes, they are recessed. I just think that certain things do give it a little something to kind of make it come forward, and there's like that little pull in that region, but nothing, that's really interfering with everything else. And again, it all has to do with that sound signature, right? That mild V shape where we're talking about that emphasis on bass, resets mids, and that forward treble. But here, in a very unique way, and this can happen, again, like I said, there are certain scenarios where it does come just a little bit forward, not ahead of the treble, but there's a little bit of separation from that bass. And I think, again, it just goes into how well KZ Audio has done with that. I do hear the mid sometimes comfortably come forward, like I mentioned, without clashing with the treble, which is really good. Sometimes you can't really tell them apart, and that sometimes can be a little bit frustrating, especially when you're looking for a specific sound signature or a specific target that it is that you're going for. But again, you get this warm, intimate sound with a decent sound stage. Instruments are nicely placed, and then there's this distinction between left, center, and right. Now this is where it kind of gets interesting, because the treble region, of course, does come forward, which the mids and the bass complement really well, while still giving the treble space. Meaning the treble, when it comes to vocals, is clear, not piercing, but nicely plays, giving you clarity, accuracy, and energy. Now, you're not gonna get like the most colorful treble, right? It's not gonna be super forward to the point where you're just like, whoa, you know what I mean? But it does what it needs to do, right? It's present, there's distinction. And I just think ultimately what I hear when I listen to these IEMs is that overall, they're just nicely balanced. Again, the sound signature is there. There are those differences, but overall, everything is just nicely placed where you want it. Really good. And again, it's not like this analytical, crazy IEM. I don't think that's the intention for these, but a bassy IEM with the mids and the treble just nicely placed, which I think is really good. Again, a lot of times when we talk about these things, there's always this give and take. That's always going to be something very present when it comes to audio, just in general. Remember, our anatomy is different. Our ears are different. The way we hear things is different. The way IEMs seal in our ears are different. So, but when I hear what I hear, this is what I'm describing to you. This is what I mean by all of that. Now let's talk about gaming. This is where I was surprised, because bassy IEMs typically just kill the mids and the treble and leave you clueless when it comes to hearing footsteps, environmental cues, gunshots, and just all the other audio cues that are just important for you when it comes to games or first-person shooters. Now, the KZ Saga here, that bass is just inviting. Like, the implementation is just really nicely done. It transfers really well to gaming. And just to give you some context, I personally like neutral IEMs, like the Moondrop Land, where everything is pretty balanced and the details just come at you, right? They just jump at you effortlessly. And the bass emphasis on these had me feeling really good. I was like, dang, okay. You know, the in-game audio mix was presented really nice. The environmental audio felt lively, punchy, exciting, while also allowing the mids and the treble to shine. So that's really good. All right. You can hear what you need to hear for first-person shooters and games. And that's something that all bass IEMs don't do. They can't do. So good job, KZ Audio. All right, let's talk about built-in comfort. So I gotta say, these are actually pretty comfortable. No issues. I can wear them for a long time. Listening to music, gaming, no issues. They sit really well. Nozzles are not big. You do have different ear tip sizes that you can kind of go through to fit your ears. Metal build, which I love. Like, something about metal IEMs, I don't know, they just really fit really nicely. They sit well, and I don't know, it's just like a comfort thing. It just feels really secure. You do have incursive Saga on each IEM plate, again made out of metal. You do have these little vents here too that I think they do kind of play a little bit into like the sound stage and like the airy, lively kind of part of why they sound the way they like, but you know. And then you have the cable, y'all. The cable's cool. I like it. It's clear. You can see the copper. Actually, this is one of like the better cables that I've seen in some time. So pretty good. You do have the inline mic as well. All right, so you can use that for in-game chat. And you do not have a chin strap, but I don't really, think that like chin straps or anything crazy or game breaking at all. But I think these, are a good starting point for those seeking an entry into the IEM space. Now, overall, in my opinion, if you are a fan of bass, I've been having a lot of people reaching out. Listen, sound, where the bass at? These, I think, nicely represent that, and the mids and the treble are there without clashing, which I think is so good, man. It's not every day you get this sort of profile, you know what I mean? And I could definitely recommend these, especially as a first time buyer. I don't think you'll regret these for listening to music and gaming. I definitely think that if you're a gamer and you want something for music and you want to game as well, play first person shooters, and you love bass, right? That bass does create that immersive experience while also wanting some decent directional cues. At this price point, guys, I could recommend these. If you are someone who uses a gaming headset and want to try an IEM, I could recommend these. I think this is a great step into the IEM audio space. All right, so overall, I think these are good for gaming and music. I've talked about that a lot. You can't consider every IEM good for gaming and music. It just doesn't work like that all the time. Just because something's good for music doesn't mean it's good for gaming. And just because something's good for gaming doesn't mean it's good for music. All right. So just something to be aware. I've talked about some of these different subjects in other videos on this channel. But that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Shout out to KZ Audio for sending out these for a review. Guys, the links will be down in the description. I get no kickback from this. This is all for you guys. So there should be some discounts even on Amazon that you can be on the lookout for. Great price. You can recommend these to anybody you know that might be looking for some IEMs. Share this. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.